Hey, this is Fred Ray Lybrand, and I just got a really sweet note from a mom out there asking questions about her 5 and 7-year-old. And she's asking a lot of common questions we get, so I thought I'd just make a video for her and for anyone else this might help regarding homeschooling and our writing course and our reading comprehension course. And so her questions are like this. She's gotten the material, but it's for a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. She's a little ahead of schedule. Kids are doing well in math, learning to read. Not sure the older one's reading comprehension is that great. So she's wondering, how do you deal with that? And she's also asking about what our day was like, how we approach things like vocabulary with kids. So just want to run through these things really quickly. Let's start with the writing course. So the writing course itself really works pretty well for an 8 or 9-year-old that's motivated. And when I say it works pretty well, my intention was for you to be able to click a button and your child work through the lesson and fill in the workbook and learn. Now the idea is to be able to go through it 4 times. We found is great. Maybe 8 would even be greater, because as your child learns about writing, he or she is going to refine some understanding. And every time they go through the course, they're going to be a different person. The way we wrote it is it's open-ended, so all the exercises are actually different each time through. So it's not just a fill in the blank. The exercises are demanding their creativity. And what goes on in a child is their psychology messes them up. They're worried about making mistakes, etc., in writing. And so we address how to deal with that issue, but also things like punctuation, grammar, and spelling distract a child from doing what he or she really needs to do. And that is to learn to write by writing, to learn to lean in and understand and discover his or her own voice. So, from a writing perspective, mom and dad can do a lot for a child. Basically, copy work is great as they're learning motor skills, as they're learning to mimic how decent writing is done. So you take their favorite book, or maybe you like Bible verses or something, you have them copy them just a little bit every day. That's great. But when they're ready, you want to get them into the process of writing, especially making up their own essays or opinion pieces, or mostly fiction for our kids. That's really the key. And intermediate, you can have them tell you a story and you can write it down. So a younger child who doesn't have those motor skills yet can benefit greatly. So for younger children, mom or dad going through the material and using the material with the child is the way to go. Similar with the reading comprehension material, but I would suggest for a younger child, 5, 7, and I think Jody did this up through, really they were a good bit older, she would use Charlotte Mason's approach, which is basically to read good literature to a child or children and then stop every 5 minutes or so and have them repeat back to you a summarized version of exactly what they had learned. And I'll tell you this, if you'll get them to picture what they're listening to, create a movie in their head and then describe back the story, it is powerful in hooking up the brain. Now, in the reading comprehension material, I don't think a 5 or 7-year-old is going to be able to go through this material and benefit that much, but mom and dad certainly can. And when we get to our exercises, that's where it's powerful for a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old. Because our exercises are going to have you on a regular weekly basis, have them read aloud to you once they can learn to read enough, and hook up their brain by focusing on 3 key ingredients. One is the actual elements that's in a passage, and I explain all this in the course. How those elements connect together, I explain all that in the course. And then how the logic works, or the way I do it is the movement in the passage. So we show you exactly how to do this. And if you will practice these separate elements with your child, it really is going to help their brain begin to make sense of things so that when they read, they will comprehend in profound ways. I can tell you, our kids, when they went to college, the most common thing they told us was their surprise at how their classmates did not understand how they could read a passage, understand the passage or book or paragraph or whatever, and then interact in class about it. It's because they understood what they were reading. And that's the power of hooking up the brain correctly. A lot of times this happens naturally for a child as they read. That's great. However, more often than not, it probably doesn't happen as quickly as it can. And if you go through our material and understand it, then you're going to be able to help guide your child in learning how to comprehend as well as just read the words. Now, that said, the other questions were related to our day. And so our day, there are a couple of things. Vocabulary, vocabulary in general. This lady is starting her children on a few words a day or a few words a week, and that's super. In my experience, by the age of 10 at least, you probably want to regularly start getting vocabulary into your children. I wish we had done more of this than we did. Latin roots multiply things, so that's worth learning. You'd learn a Latin root and you'd learn really 10 or maybe 20 words out of that. It's the same with synonyms. One of the things I love to do now that I understand it more is to encourage families to learn 4, 5, 6, 7 words that roughly mean the same thing. So you have a child learning a basic definition and then nuanced words. Just think how great that is to multiply what they're listening to. Our day itself and the way we homeschooled worked like this. 7:30 in the morning, we began school, and our goal was to get through around 12:30 or 1, so they had the rest of the day. It also taught them to get up and get in motion in life. You may have a different approach, more power to you. I'm just telling you what we did. And our deal was, especially as all the kids could read and get older and had more initiative in it and accountability, 7:30, they're down there ready to do school. Breakfast could fit in there. I don't know exactly how all that was pulled off. I think Jody put out like granola and fruit and stuff like that. But at 7:30, unless everybody's there, they can't begin. Now, magically, that had everyone get everybody out of bed and go. It wasn't mom and dad's job. It was their job, because once they started, the sooner they start, the sooner they get finished. And then basically, since we're thinking about teaching them to learn how to learn, to develop skills, we began with writing for about an hour. Really, it was about 30 minutes. It varied with the child, anywhere from 1 to 3 pages, skipping every other line so we could do corrections. And I say an hour, so our corrections, they'd write for about 30 minutes, and then we would do corrections, maybe later in the day, but they had that time so that they're putting an hour into writing. Then an hour of math, hour of reading, hour of math, hour of reading, pretty much. In there was about a 30-minute exercise routine that we added in the course of time because they needed to get up and move their bodies and learn things about coordination and energy. Maybe they're running, maybe they're playing basketball, maybe they're lifting weights, depended. So that was our basic day, this routine of writing, math, reading, And they're due kind of through around 1 o'clock, maybe 12:30, and then they had the rest of the day, violin lessons, piano, scouts, whatever they did, play. And that routine worked really quite well for our children, because it was teaching them if they'd go ahead and get busy, get their work done, they could be done with their day. If they didn't get finished, they might have some, quote, homework later in the day. And that's kind of the way that game went as well. And so sometimes they were doing extra work in the afternoons, tough break. But that was our basic routine. Saturdays, they only did math. And if they found a service project in the community, they could substitute service for an organization or people instead of doing math. So that was our basic framework. We started with writing, let me just mention, because we became convinced that writing, not math, is the hardest mental activity. And if you get up and conquer the hardest thing first thing in the morning, you're going to be really equipped to work hard and well in this life. Writing you're making hundreds of decisions just over a page or two. Math, not so much. I know math is hard, but it's only hard because you're doing new things every day. If you did the exact same math day in and day out, it'd be very easy, because once you understand it, you're in great shape. Hey, everything is hard before it's easy, but it's easy once you know how. And that's the basic game plan. So, our experience with 5 kids, birth to college, we're teaching them to learn how to learn. It's focused on reading, writing, arithmetic. Math is about logic and understanding absolutes. Reading is about communication and about getting information from other people. And writing is about clarifying your thinking and being able to communicate clearly. And that day in, day out process gave them skills, which is the goal of education, not content. Content you can catch up on once you have the skills. So there's the basic answer to this mom, and there's the basic answer or solution to you. I hope you find this helpful, and honestly, I hope you get the writing course and the reading comprehension course, and I think if you're smart, you get all the rest of the courses that as you go through them, your kids are going to be ready for college and for life in ways that you just cannot possibly imagine will benefit them. Anyway, we're always open to questions. We'd love to hear your feedback, and look forward to seeing your kids touch this world. It really needs it. Goodbye.